Bonjour. 4.3, writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines are, lines that go on forever and never intersect, and perpendicular lines cross at a 90-degree angle. The one word you will need to know more than anything else for perpendicular lines is the word reciprocal. So remember, reciprocal are fractions that are flipped. They multiply to equal -1. No, we'll get there for perpendicular. They multiply to equal 1 if you have two fractions that are reciprocals. So let's first talk about parallel lines. Two lines that are on the same plane, never intersect, are called parallel. And they are only parallel if they have the same slope. So any two lines with the same slope are parallel. And if they don't have the same slope, they are not parallel. Okay, let's jump into an example. So here, if we have these three lines, they all kind of look parallel. In order to calculate whether they actually are parallel, you want to calculate the slopes. So first, what is the slope for line A? Okay, so the slope for line A is down 1 over 5. So -1/5 is the slope for line A. What is the slope for line B? Okay, so for B, and they're using the slope formula, you can also just use rise and run by counting the spaces because it's on a graph. It goes down 1 over 4. So the slope for B is -1/4. What about the slope for C? What is the slope for C? Okay, so it goes down 1 over 5. So lines A and C are parallel, but B is not. Okay, there we go. Let's do another example. What if you know that you have a line that is parallel to another line and you have a point that passes through it? Hopefully you understand point slope form. So if you have a line that goes through 5, -4, and is parallel to the line y equals 2x plus 3, what is the slope for the line that you're looking for? Okay, it's got to be 2. And the reason why it's got to be 2 is because the slope of this one is 2, because that's in slope-intercept form. Okay, so then what you use is the slope of 2, and you can substitute 5 for x and -4 for y to calculate b. That's one way to do this. Or you can use point slope form. That is the other way to do this. They're using y equals mx plus b, plugging in your x and y values, solving for b. When you do that, you find out your y-intercept is -14. Therefore, your equation is y equals 2x minus 14. Okay, take a look at this. Make sure all of this makes sense. If you want to check this using point slope form, you'll find out you get the same answer when it's all simplified and said and done. Okay, so now let's move on to perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines are a little trickier. So parallel lines are easy. Slopes are exactly the same. Perpendicular lines, you got one line going up with a positive slope, which means the other line has to be going down and having a negative slope in order for them to be perpendicular. And the other thing is the slopes are reciprocals. So if this one, for example, it looks like it's going down 2 and over 1, then the other slope has to be the reciprocal of that, 1/2. So if this slope is -2 over 1, the other one's positive 1/2. So a long way of saying that if you multiply these two slopes together for any perpendicular lines, you have to get -1 because they are negative reciprocals of each other. Okay, so that's your notes on perpendicular lines. The slopes have to be negative reciprocals of each other. Let's do an example. So, I don't like these examples, but that's okay. We'll go through them. So they give us this one. It's in slope-intercept form. This one's not in slope-intercept form. And this one's in standard form. So you got 2 in standard form, 1 in slope-intercept form. So the first thing you want to do, first, tell me what the slope for line A is. Yeah, it's 4. Let's see how much they're going to show us here. So the slope for line, oh boy, and it just jumped to line B there. Okay, so they rewrote B already in slope-intercept form, getting y by itself, and you find out the slope for B is -1/4. So are line A and line B perpendicular? Yes, they are, because this is a slope of +4 over 1. This is a slope of -1 over 4. They are perpendicular lines. Woo! Okay, and then what is the slope for line C? If you rearrange equation C and get y by itself. What is the slope for line C? All right, it is also negative 1/4. Therefore, lines B and C are parallel, and line A is perpendicular to lines B and C. Okay, so that is some good info right there. You might want to take notes on this as well. That's a good example to have. Okay, we got this one right here. So if they tell you that an equation passes through negative 3, 1 and is perpendicular to this equation here, what is the slope of the perpendicular line to y equals 1/2 x plus 3? All right, the slope has to be negative 2 because this is a slope of positive 1/2. Your reciprocal is negative 2 over 1 for the negative reciprocal, that is. And then again, you can use point slope form, but I think they're probably going to use slope intercept and solve for b. So you can use point slope form or, oh, they are using point slope form this time. Okay, so the way that works is you plug in negative 3 and 1 for your x and y, and you also plug in negative 2 for your slope, and then simplify it, and you get y equals negative 2x minus 5. That is a perpendicular line to this one right here that passes through this point right here. Okay, again, good time to pause and take a look at this and make sure it all makes sense. And the last thing is a story problem, of course. So we have a helicopter and a search and rescue, and we have this line, and it has to be perpendicular to this line. So write an equation that represents the path. So what we need is at least one of the equations. That one point is not good enough. So we got to understand the problem and make a plan. So the plan is we have to find the equation for one of these lines first. And I think we have a whole separate slide for that. There we go. Okay, so notice back here, you can find 2 points that this passes through. So this is an easy point to read, which is at 4, 1. And then you need a second point that's easy to read. So it looks like 1, 3 is also easy to read. So for the green line, you can find the slope. That's what they're doing right here. And you find out it is negative 2/3. Therefore, the perpendicular slope has to be 3/2. It has to be the negative reciprocal of that one. And then it passes through 14/4. Okay, so now you're going to need some paper for this. Find the equation for the perpendicular line, this red one, that passes through 14/4 and has a slope of 3/2. All right, so you can use point slope form, or you can use y equals mx plus b and solve for b. And once you distribute and rearrange and simplify, you end up with y equals 3/2 x minus 17. Okay, so if you have any questions on any of this, just ask me during class. The main thing is, remember, parallel lines, same slope. Perpendicular lines have a negative reciprocal slope of each other. Okay, and as you work through the problems, that will make a little more sense. So ask me if you need some help, and I'll see you in class. Arr!